Do our conversations about crypto have you wanting to do more with your career? Check out Fidelity, which has been exploring Bitcoin and blockchain since 2014. They were the first traditional asset manager to launch a native crypto business and also among the first to launch a Bitcoin exchange-traded product. So why consider Fidelity? Because they invest in their talent with continuing education programs and they invest in their technology, ensuring associates are working with the latest and greatest so that their crypto teams can continue to improve and evolve their product, staying ahead of the rapidly changing digital asset landscape. With Fidelity's iterative, scalable approach, built to meet today's increasing demands across the digital space and a commitment to developing innovative tools, there's never been a more interesting time to work in crypto and DeFi at Fidelity. Explore Fidelity Crypto Careers today. Go to crypto.fidelitycareers.com to learn more. That's crypto.fidelitycareers.com. Fidelity is an equal opportunity employer. And now it is on with the show. My guest today is Patrick Carey. Patrick is the CTO at CoinTerminal. And well, CoinTerminal, what is it? It's a launchpad. There's a whole lot going on, in fact. And look, we will learn all about it today. But firstly, welcome to the show, Patrick.
Thanks for having me, Andy. Let's get going.
Yeah, absolute pleasure, Patrick. Let's do what we do at the beginning of the show. Be super cool if you could please introduce yourself. Would love to hear some of your personal and professional background. I guess, yeah, what have you been doing in the lead up to joining the team at CoinTerminal?
Thanks, Andy. Yeah, I'm 25 years into the software industry. My background is around 19 to 20 years in traditional finance. I've worked for probably all of the biggest banks in the world, especially in the structured capital markets. My speciality was designing and securing systems for cash modeling, cash flows, all the kind of crazy madness of TradFi that brought down the industry in 2007, 2008. I was there before and I was there after as well, tidying up the mess that was there. From that kind of background of banking, I moved into DeFi and crypto around 6 years ago, although I've been in the industry from an investment or interest point of view for over 10 years. So that's me. And then I worked my way towards CoinTerminal. Very good friends with the founder, original founder. So I'm actually partner and CTO there. And I've been around with the company for around a year now. I've kind of, from a kind of IDO or launch perspective of these kind of coins, I've been in and out of the highs, the lows, the boring parts, all that kind of thing. So yeah, that's a little bit about myself and my background.
And I have to ask, Patrick, what was it about, it sounds like you probably had a reasonably successful career, twirling the bolts and twirling the dials behind the scenes in traditional finance and could have just kept going. No worries at all. What was it about crypto that attracted you to the dark side, as it were?
The dark side, what a way to put it. There is a tiny light side to this industry, but you're right, there is a large dark side. I still have a lot of contacts and I still operate in a traditional world. You got to be careful in both because crypto's now becoming more institutionally adopted and more mature. But when I joined, it was seen very much as a pariah or an outlier of the banking system. What attracted me to it, I've worked for my own freelance agency. I've set my own company for consulting, and I've never really worked a full-time job, always operated as a contractor through my company. So I've always had that kind of spirit of independence and openness, even in the traditional world. And that's what crypto attracted me. I guess the ethos behind it, behind blockchain especially, the independence and the upside it can eventually offer to the individual really piqued my interest, especially through DeFi and that kind of side of things and the barriers it breaks down, right? I've been around the traditional banking industry all of my life and I see how many hurdles and how bureaucratic it can be, sometimes for the good, sometimes for the bad. I do believe we're on the cusp, and you've seen it now, right, of institutional adoption. So Yeah, that's what attracted me, and that's where I see the big trend going at the moment.
All right. Probably useful at this point, Patrick, to learn a bit more about CoinTerminal. So, I guess give
Mhm.
us the the boilerplate summary, if you like, or the high level vision statement. What is CoinTerminal simply?
We're a tier one, meaning we're up there in the top five on most important metrics as a launch pad. We're tokenless. So what? Let's start off. What's a launch pad, right? We pick up late stage, sometimes early stage projects that are looking to launch a crypto token. We offer a range of facilities to help them go to market, but the predominant one is allowing a public raise via our very large retail base. So we allow investors to access sales. We attempt to educate and market those projects and let our user base know about what's special about them. We let them invest earlier on before they hit the exchanges, with the hoping rather seek the upside, so they get in at a better price than when the token launches on exchanges. So we have two verticals from that kind of launch perspective. We assist projects with advice and advisory services. We look to vet and pick out and fully KYB our projects. And then we introduce them on the other side to our very large retail base, which is what we're very focused on at the moment.
Yeah, and I see on your website you talk about I think it's almost like a money back guarantee if a pre-sale underperforms. So how does that work, and is that sustainable?
Yeah, it sounds like one of those double glazing
It
adverts that you
does.
used to hear on the radio, right?
Yeah.
I think you're showing your age there, Andy, laughing at that one, but we used to get them all the time. So we have two different types of launches in that respect. We have non-refundables. They tend to be lower valuations, lower raises, slightly riskier, right? Where there's no actual money back, so there is a level of risk there. The upside can be greater. You are referring to our refundable sales, right? So these are ones where projects are kind of getting involved with us with eyes open, knowing that if they make their sale refundable, the focus is going to be on their performance, often on the day they list, and post performance as well. Now, how refundables work is they benefit the project because they allow a much larger user base. You can attract more users getting in on these sales, and users can commit or contribute capital up front, or collateral if you want to call it that. And after TGE, they at that point can choose whether to claim their refund or request a refund back, or they can claim their tokens. So often the journey is, how is the price doing? What is the hype around the project? What is the product they've brought to market? All those kind of things. So it really is risk free from that perspective.
Yeah, fascinating. As long as the project achieves certain objectives, then yeah. I mean, how big is the community, or the retail base, Patrick? Because presumably that community of investors needs to be quite large to have the sufficient liquidity to support something like this. And I guess to that point, give us a sense of how many, I don't know, token launches you might have in a given month, or sort of what it looks like.
Yep. So user base wise, we're around 600,000 users now. And not all of those are active because that would represent a huge portion of the industry. But in terms of the user active levels, it depends on the kind of sentiment around the industry. But probably our busiest period since I've been CTO was back in January, February time. We had around 60,000 monthly active users participating in these sales, which is a huge amount, often filling out sales of up to $1 million on some of the more, let's say, aggressive raising sides of the industry. In terms of the overall user base, though, we're really pivoting at the moment to capture fresh users in and kind of educate them and bring them in a really seamless way on our pad, breaking down boundaries and barriers to entry. So when we talk about our user base out there, potentially, our traffic at the moment, we're getting up to 50,000 unique new users coming in. we're really working on the organic side of things as well. So the potential side of the user base is pretty limitless. It depends how you want to bring people into the space.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that you guys are constantly negotiating with different projects, different startups. How do you sort of what are the criteria? Some of the criteria that you would look at to vet some of those projects. Just I'm sure there'd be some listening that would be interested in getting a start on a platform such as yours. What are some of the other criteria that they would need to meet?
Yep. So you've got typical criteria of what you'd look at for a company in a traditional world, right? Where you're looking at past success. Um, do they have a product that's attractive? Do they have a marketing strategy already in mind in how they're actually going to pull the user base in? Are they actually solving a problem out there that crypto can solve? Or are they just looking to chase a narrative or trend? Now, I'm certainly not criticizing that strategy. We all know that happens in this industry, and trends are very important in crypto, but we look for a blend of those combination of factors predominantly. We also look for, it depends on if they want to do a refundable or non-refundable. For non-refundable, we look for an attractively low valuation, right? So are you valuing your public round phase, or what you're going to value yourself on our launchpad at realistic price, or do you have some pie in the sky valuation you're looking for? For refundables, it's more about, are you really launching an exciting product? Do you have legitimacy and big names backing you, etc., right? Because although there's no risk to our users from kind of price action perspective, you don't want to waste people's time, right? Going into a sale that's not going to perform successfully. So on those kind of larger valuations, we look for those kind of metrics as well.
Yeah, and give us a sense of, I guess, what does a typical raise look like? I'm sure there's not necessarily any such thing as typical, but give us a sense of what a successful launch event would look like, the kind of capital involved, and yeah.
So from a non-refundable, probably we'll do around $250,000 raise. Sometimes it goes a bit higher. We are a late stage opportunity for further raising, right? Meaning the kind of projects are close to agreeing exchanges. They've developed the product, the marketing, and the strategy, and we are there as an additional raise to bring fresh users in and excitement to the sale. So 250K around that particular ballpark. For for refundables, it can go anything up to $1 million, depending. Successful wise, at the moment, the IDO market's pretty quiet, and the raises back in January, February this year were much larger. We still consider like 75% sold out, particularly versus the rest of the industry. I won't name any particular other competitors, but we see very small participation versus our kind of launch pad. So 75% is very good at the moment. In terms of the kind of launch and price action, most IDO participants are still mentally conditioned for 100% ROI on listing. In the traditional world where I was originally from, that would be considered exceptional, especially how fast these kind of teams and projects launch, right? You're not talking a decade-long journey here. You're often talking potentially 5-6 months to market. So that would be considered, from our users' perspective, a successful sale. Personally, my own standpoint, 25 to 50% ROI, but a really powerful and strong strategy for going into the months following. How are you going to handle with sell pressure? Do you have a really strong roadmap? Is your launch just the beginning of something much larger? For myself, that's what I look for. I'm very conservative on these kind of IDO investments. Yeah.
Yeah, well, conservative is probably a good strategy, but of course, the end goal, Patrick, is, or the hope is that that each project would get listed on a tier one major exchange, right? So do you sort of have an idea of how often that happens?
So from TGE onwards, to go down the journey of a year in and getting listed on a tier one is a tiny percentage, right? Exchanges often are tier ones; they're there from the start. Now you do get organic tokens that are, or we call them organic. It's very, dubious term used here, but you get tokens that will launch on smaller exchanges, go on this journey of expansion. They actually hit the nail on the head and have big user adoption, and then exchanges are interested, right? Because exchanges want users. They are definitely the exception. Often it's you've got the right strategy, the investors, and the product where you'll get them from day number one. So yeah, that is very, very rare. Meme tokens have been the kind of big example of that this cycle, right? There's no other kind of subsector that's had the opportunity to start on chain, even with no exchanges, and really take those tier ones on later on.
You said, Patrick, you mentioned that, I guess the user base, they expect high returns, right? And I guess that's just it's just partly it's like a hangover from the ICO days, and partly just I imagine a lot of the user base are like old coin traders, right? So they're looking for the outsized return, and they're probably happy to take on the outsized risk that is involved. Do you think that's a kind of a fair assessment of what expectations would be?
I think so. I think most launchpads still have the kind of hangover community from the previous 2021 phase of the bull, which was completely different for ICOs, IDOs, whatever you want to refer to them as. And back then, you could pretty much launch anything, and it would give, as long as you had the right exchanges, the buy pressure was there. You would have a many multiples, right? Obviously, you needed still strong market and the right influences and everything. But if you had ticked all those boxes, you kind of had a formula for success. A very, very different market now where you can tick all those boxes and you can totally be liquidated. Your price can go down. There's a couple of reasons for that. Number one is saturation. We've had huge token inflation since that period. The second is the buy volume on exchanges has not been there versus the previous run. Call that a maturing market, or people just disappearing from the space. There's many reasons, right? But that has affected the IDO market this time around, definitely.
Yeah, I think that's one of the it's like one of the paradoxes of I guess the wider crypto market, or the idea that anyone can spin up their own token, which is great because it's a free market and everyone should have the ability to do that. But given that everyone has the ability to do that, it does dilute the market substantially and just makes it harder for everyone, right?
Yeah, and it makes it harder to find quality, right? Even if you can pick out and have all the, as a launch pad, we do a lot of background, we assess the marketability, you can get all that in place and even be a person with a lot of experience in this industry and think it's a winner, and sometimes you get slapped across the face. So that is the reality here. Now, the trend now is moving more towards traditional finance coming on chain, and that's the real value capture, in my opinion, on this particular run, where it's less about being inside this ecosystem where generating value within this smaller pool of capital. You're actually bringing fresh value and providing those people on chain opportunities to the real world. And I think that's the trend that needs to happen for the IDO market as well.
Yes, yeah, no, that's well observed. Thank you, Patrick. I see on your website you've got the likes of Binance Labs and OKX Ventures listed as co-investors. How does what's the sort of involvement there?
So the involvement is very much from a B2B perspective, where we've got great connections with people that are in key positions in exchanges, VCs associated with those exchanges. We are very kind of out there at all of the big events, networking. We often get deal flow from some of these exchanges and vice versa as well. And we make it a lot, part of the launchpad's not just about raising. We sometimes bring in the exchanges for the projects or make that onboarding process a lot easier because we know what exchanges are looking for. We know the fair pricing to list on these exchanges, etc. So we really try to create an even marketplace between the projects and the exchanges as part of launching with us as well.
And I know you've touched on this a little bit, Patrick, but yeah, how would you kind of characterize the market today and where we are in the cycle, and just any sort of observations on that kind of thing?
What do you think, Andy? I'm interested in your opinion.
Well, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? I think, people are just a little bit burnt out, and perhaps less interested in taking on, a lot of risk, and they can kind of see that, maybe I'm speaking for myself, but maybe it does make sense just to, hold some of the bigger, safer assets for the long term, and not try and swing for the fences every time. And look, as you observed, Patrick, perhaps I'm a little bit older now and maybe a little bit wiser. I do understand that if you're a young person and you're just starting out, then you do have to swing for the fences. So of course it is different for everyone. But yeah, maybe just a slightly maturing market at one end and a really confused market at the other end.
Yeah, I agree with that kind of assessment. I think this run has, without the institutions, this run probably wouldn't have happened, right? Every cycle's different, of course, and there's always an ignition point. You can argue macro, economics, you can argue sentiment, but institutional capital and these ETFs have driven this market up. Retail hasn't, right? So you've had a very it's sort of picking up now, but a dead alt market and a BTC market. We're seeing some rotation now into the alts, but IDOs have been a kind of victim of that kind of cycle, what's driven this. I totally agree from a kind of more mature perspective, unless you want to just have a little bit of a fun or pique your interest on a particular project and put a small, tiny part of your portfolio into these sales. If you're more mature, you're better off just sitting in the bigger blue chip alts, or going into a refundable sale. If you want to spend 5-10 minutes of your time and you see something interesting and you just want to see what a launchpad's all about, they offer you a way safer, way of getting into these sales.
Yeah, what I do like about the launch pads is it's kind of democratizes the access, not just of investing, but of, kind of startup venture, trying to just do whatever it is that you want to do. And I guess, on that note, Patrick, sort of what do you see? What is the future of launch pads like CoinTerminal? What would you like to see happen? What are some glimmers of, perhaps trends that could play out over the next few years?
I think one of the big trends is going to be Launchpad as a service, where essentially you can kind of just use the product or the platform end to end to launch your own token, right? And you can use a level of AI automation to drive people in. It's about the tooling, right? It's a bit like when you use one of these big cloud providers and they're providing you all the infrastructure to build your product, and then there's content out there to educate you and you to drive that platform you've built. That should be the future of launchpads, essentially, where it's a kind of service. It's helping users build it all out themselves. And of course, there's always going to be people there on a higher level. You can pay more to advise, etc. But really, it should be all at your fingertips on your laptop. And that's really where we are seeing the trend going towards. It's more of a service. You can subscribe and pay a fee, and you can use all this tooling around it. Now, there's always going to be a human element needed to this market, because it's always, even with the kind of institutional and RWA narrative coming on, you still need the market and the hype. This industry still requires a huge amount of that. So that's always going to play a part. But yeah, the kind of SaaS element is where I see launchpads going. Probably as well a little bit more towards building out platforms where the kind of wallet and blockchain infrastructure is kind of second nature. It's something that you don't worry about too much as a user. There's still a lot of launchpads that run on wallets, but you see these kind of second gen wallets coming in that still give you self-custody, but allowing it through social logins, gasless platforms, etc. So that's personally, as a kind of technical guy, that's where I see the industry going.
Yeah. Well said. All right. Well, I guess, Patrick, to finish off this part of the podcast, for anyone interested in, I guess from an investor point of view, jumping into some of these pre-sales, looking around at what's available, and then maybe from a project point of view, someone wants to potentially list their project and get started. What is the best way for the two kind of different sets of people? What should they do? Where should they go, Patrick?
We're about to launch a big sort of aspect to our launchpad called Token Hub, which is really about providing content and allowing you to build up your project before you even submit it to us. This is probably going to be launching the next month. So if you're interested in launching with us, you should be. Then I would hang back and wait for that to happen. If you really have a project that you're desperate to get to market now, we have a couple of forms to fill out on our website that also provide you access to our BD team. And then you can reach out to them in Telegram as well. Yeah.
Awesome. And so the link is in the show notes, folks. But cointerminal.com. It is time to finish up the episode, Patrick. And we do that, of course, by running you through the very famous crypto conversation hot take round. Are you up for it?
I have no idea what is this, but I guess so. I can't back out now.
That's quite right, Patrick. And don't worry, all I'm going to do is just throw some questions at you. And I just want you to give me your honest answers, hot take style, if you like. Question one is very simply, where would you say that you sit on the Bitcoin maximalist to multi-chain opportunist spectrum?
I'm a altcoin guy, a multi-chain kind of person. So definitely that side.
Fair enough. Patrick, what would you say is your firmest conviction crypto opinion?
My first is that I think blockchain, less crypto, is definitely going to bring transparency, and it's going to actually fulfill its potential in terms of TradFi. It's not going to wipe out the banking system, but it's going to improve transparency there. Yeah.
I love it. Patrick, Bill Gates famously said that we tend to overestimate what we can accomplish in 2 years and underestimate what we can accomplish in 10. Maybe you're too very well aware that 10 years is a very long time in crypto, but, if you look ahead 10 years and look, anything you like here, blockchain, Web3, DeFi, IDOs, CoinTerminal, what does it all look like in 10 years' time, Patrick?
I think most traditional raises are done on chain. You're starting to see that now. I think most bank accounts are running on blockchain. There's a lot less hacks. There's a lot more stability there. And a lot of the speculation is completely wiped out. So these kind of meme coins and these projects that launch on a whim, those opportunities are completely dead. But more transparency, cheaper fees, I definitely see that. I do see Bitcoin is the most forgiving of all cryptos in terms of if you want to get involved. I do see that going up only. Hopefully, quantum computers don't come along and totally wreck the entire system, but I think quantum proofing blockchains are coming along as well. If AI fulfills its potential, I'm definitely a person that thinks it's going to make us all redundant, but living in utopia. So I think AI running with blockchain in perfect harmony. That's what I see.
I love it. You got to be optimistic and utopian about these things, Patrick. So I tend to agree.
You're doing this today, Sunday.
Yes. And it reminds me of a great quote that I enjoy from William Gibson, who, of course, said that the future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed. So with that in mind, Patrick, can you think of an example of the future being here right now, but most people aren't aware of it?
Yeah, I think general intelligence already exists in AI. If AI was going to be out and self-aware, it's not going to let us know. So I think it's already there. We just don't know about it. And it could already be there in the blockchain system as well. If anyone's smart enough to look at all the transactions going around on the main chains, you may spot some patterns there.
I love it. And it brings us nicely to the final question, Patrick, which is, what is your favorite science fiction book, film, or TV show?
Favorite one is Event Horizon. That would be the sci-fi horror.
Yeah.
I love movies with unhappy endings.
Yeah.
Not everything has to end successfully, even if we want it to. So
Yeah.
that would definitely be my sci-fi. That and 12 Monkeys as well, because that's got a kind of, it's even worse. It's got a kind of circular ending where it never ends and it's always an unhappy ending when you think it does.
Yeah, from optimistic utopian perspectives right back down to dystopian. I like it, Patrick.
That's crypto. It would take you all the way up to the moon, right? And it'll bring you all the way back down to Earth.
We've round tripped, and it brings us nicely to the end of the episode, Patrick. Look, hey, this was a lot of fun. Thank you so much for coming and spending some time with us today. Again, look, just to close it out, again, tell people where they can go to, look at all the different launches and IDOs that are happening on CoinTerminal.
Yep, cointerminal.com. You can visit us, just Google us. I think we pop up as #1 now for that particular phrase. By the way, if you participate, we've got an ongoing lottery, which we didn't cover here. And if you're lucky enough to win it, you'll be able to fly over and meet some of the team in Dubai as well. So do get involved with the sales from that aspect as well.
Fantastic. Hey, this was fun. Thank you so much, Patrick. All the best, and bye for now.
Thank you, Wendy.